podcast with our host, Scott Smith. Scott, how are you? It's very interesting. We've been talking about outsourcing. We've been talking about the challenges. We talk about hiring an expert. And at the end of the year, this is the time to evaluate if it's worth outsourcing. So let's talk end of the year. You're in Q4, you're looking at your budget for 2025, and you want to kind of compare what would it cost if I automated and outsourced more than what I'm currently putting out there so I can profit more in 2025. Isn't that correct?
Oh, absolutely. This is the time to do that. Budgets are being set for next year, and this is the time for people to assess whether or not it makes sense to continue to do what they've been doing or to do something else that's going to put more money onto their bottom line.
All right, so let's talk some big things. What do you do when you're looking at a company and they say, I'm considering outsourcing? Do you ask to kind of see their bottom line and what their costs are for their staff and stuff to see how that you can decrease costs?
Absolutely. So we need to look at what they're spending. What is their budgeted spend? How much are they spending to do what they're doing, to offer what they're offering today? Once we understand, how much money it's actually costing them to do the work that they're having to do and to keep their operations moving forward, then we can look at, how much we can actually save them by moving that work offshore. And, they're going to get a great opportunity to cut deep into some of those budgeted numbers if they look at moving the right things.
Right. So they're making those things. And when you evaluate, what do you see the average decrease in of spend for employment once you start to do some offshore changes compared to nearshore? Or current, like kind of explain that whole thing.
Yeah, so when people are doing work onshore versus when they're doing work offshore, the cost savings are significant offshore, right? So I've seen cost savings of, upwards of 60% for similar roles and the same kind of work that's being done here onshore. And Neil, there's so many things that come into play with this. You have all of your overhead costs, right? You've got your office space, you've got payroll. Payroll alone can be a nightmare, not only to have to manage, but think of the cost for the payroll costs and the taxes and the licensing costs for, software licensing and, equipment and all of the things that go into play. And as I'm just kind of spitballing through all of these different things, the list is a litany of expenses. And not all of those expenses, to be clear, will entirely disappear by moving work offshore. That's not how it works. But the percentage that you save on those expenses is ridiculous. Some of them will completely go away, but other things are going to be so significantly reduced that it doesn't make sense not to do it.
And I think the reason why people aren't doing it is because of the management of this. So how much time is going to be needed to manage an offshore team?
It really depends on what it is that you're doing, right? You can have managing an offshore team can be a full-time job, but it just depends on the work they're doing, the volume of work they're doing, how many people you're having to manage, and what the nature of the process is. Managing the team can be hard. You have to make sure that you have communications in place. You have to make sure that you have, the right structural setup of reporting and, who reports to who. I'm not saying that very well, but I'll use my English words, right? Who reports to who? That really matters. And once you have your reporting structure set up and you have communication set up and you have processes and procedures set up, the amount of management for that can actually start to back down a little bit. It doesn't take near as much time or as much effort to be able to manage it, but you still have to actively manage it. And often it makes sense to have somebody that can help you manage that. So one of the things that I do is, in my offering is, I will offer to manage the team that we help set up. Or if a team is already existing, we want to go in and we want to streamline whatever it is they're doing, then, you know, I can help tweak the processes and make sure that the management of that team is being done properly. And if not, I can come in and help to take over the support of that particular team for a time until things are going smoothly. And then, you know, they can do what they are more comfortable with doing.
All right. Best place people can find information on you, Scott. Where can they go?
As always, akataconsulting.com. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn as well.
All right. That was special simulcast Neil Haley Show.